Today I wanted to talk to you about a medical diagnosis that I got about 6 or 7 years ago. And some of you may have it or may have been diagnosed with it. And so I just thought maybe a quick series of videos might be helpful. And so I'm just going to get right into it. So about 7 years ago, I was diagnosed with something called atrial fibrillation with a rapid ventricular response. So it's AFIB with RVR. So what that is, it's a rapid contractions of your atria that causes your ventricles to beat too fast and cause all kinds of havoc in your heart. What it feels like is a heart that's beating like you've just been exercising for, 10 hours straight. It's just crazy beating. And what happens is that it does something to your heart. If it's not treated or not dealt with properly, it can lead to stroke while you're having it. I mean, your stroke risk is much higher when you have AFib because of this problem of the blood and how it's flowing through your heart. And the other problem is that it can also lead to heart failure. So it's something that really should be addressed. And in my case, it was. So I just want to talk to you about when it started, how it started, what the symptoms were, how I dealt with it. I don't think I can do it all in one video because it really took like 1.5 years to get it under control. I'm pretty much symptom-free now, but it's been a lot of hospital visits, doctor's visits, cardiologist visits. So let me just tell you how mine started and what was happening. So one night I got home from work. I think it was a Friday night, and it was late. My husband was already in bed. I was kind of on my laptop in my pajamas, just relaxing. I actually was almost falling asleep in the chair. And all of a sudden my heart started pounding. And when I say pounding, like I could feel it outside my chest kind of pounding, and it was super fast. And so I don't even know why. I never checked my blood pressure, but I happened to have a blood pressure cuff in the house. And I took my blood pressure. It was high. It was like, I don't remember. It's like the 170s over something. And it was very high though, but my pulse was extremely rapid. It was like, I can't even remember what it was. It was really, really fast, like the fastest it's ever been. So I went and got dressed really fast because I thought I was going to have my husband take me to the hospital. And so I threw on my clothes real quick. I woke up my husband. I said, I think you need to get me to the hospital. And he hurry up, got out of bed. And I thought, well, I'm going to try to wait this out. How stupid was that? And then I started getting really dizzy and feeling like I was going to pass out. So I actually called 911 to get an ambulance and paramedics to the house. And I was so dizzy and kind of out of it. I gave them the wrong address. My husband grabbed the phone. He's like, that's not the correct address. I went and sat down. They had me take some aspirins. I think I had just regular aspirin in the house. I took a couple of those. The paramedics came. By then, I couldn't even stand up. I was pretty much like laying on the couch and really having a hard time. And when the paramedics came, they thought I was having something called supraventricular tachycardia. It was not that, but because my heart rate was going so fast and my blood pressure was so high and all of that, I mean, it was like almost 300 beats a minute. It was ridiculous. They called the hospital. They gave me something called, I don't remember the medication, but it's actually to like stop your heart, to make you not have this, because it can get so bad when your heart's beating that fast that your heart can actually stop. So they gave me something called a bolus, I think it was called, where they kind of push the IV through your veins. And that got better for a couple of minutes, and all of a sudden it shot back up. So they quick got me in the ambulance, drove me to the hospital. It continued, my heart was out of sinus rhythm for probably I don't know, 10 hours, something like that. And so they admitted me to the hospital. I was in the cardiac unit for a while. I got put into a cardiac room and they monitored me, gave me medication, and I was able to get back into sinus rhythm. And the next day I went home. So they sent me to the cardiologist and I went on blood thinners. And I also went on a medication called Tenormin, atenolol. And it kind of brings your heart rate down, your blood pressure down. And lo and behold, maybe a month and a half on those medications, I had the same thing happen again. And back to the hospital. Now this time I didn't go in an ambulance. I'm ashamed to say this. I drove myself and got to the hospital, got a lecture for driving myself. And again, went on medications to stabilize my heart. And at some point went back into sinus rhythm. So sometimes the medications don't work. Sometimes they actually have to give you a shock to your heart to, stimulate it to kind of put it into sinus rhythm again. Thankfully, I didn't have to have that. So I kept dealing with this AFib where I just, out of the blue, it would come up and beat real fast and in and out of the hospital. It was very stressful. I started to get very anxious and nervous because I never knew when it was going to come up. And I was wearing these Holter monitors for like a week at a time. They would put the ones on that like stick to your chest and monitor it that way for a week or two. And so I found out that was the issue that I was having, was this AFib with a rapid ventricular response. And so I was getting care at Kaiser Permanente at the time. I live in California. And they suggested that I actually get something called cardiac ablation. So that's a process where they go in and they burn the vessels that go into your heart, all 4 of them, to kind of build up some scar tissue so that when those problems start and your heart goes into contractions, that it hits that scar tissue and it stops it. So I did go through the cardiac ablation. I'm going to do a separate video on that because it was quite a process and there was a lot involved in it. But I'm doing really well now. It's been a process and I still have to monitor my heart. I ended up having a loop recorder put in my chest so that they could monitor it a little bit better. And different things, which, like I said, I'm going to go into another video. I don't want to make this an hour video for you. But anyway, it's a very common thing to get AFib, atrial fibrillation. It's basically your atria is fibrillating, and it's not something that you want to have. Heart problems are not something that I ever thought I was going to have. I have a lot of longevity in my family and I eat pretty healthy. I try to eat a lot of vegetables and fruits, and I try to be as careful as I can. I'm much more careful now than I used to be, but I don't smoke. I don't drink to excess. I just try to do the things to keep healthy. I do need to lose some weight. But anyway, off that topic. And anyway, so I did go through the cardiac ablation. I'm going to do a part 2 for that, just so that I could talk to you about what it is if it's something you're facing. I just want to let you know that if you do have something like AFib or AFib with rapid ventricular response, it's not the end of the world. I had the ablation done about 5 years ago, and I've been doing very good. I have not been admitted to the hospital again for that particular issue since I had the ablation. So Anyway, I hope this is helpful. If anyone's going through anything like this right now, I know it's very scary, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. And after watching that next video on the cardiac ablation, it may be something that you want to talk to your doctor about. So thanks for watching. If you're not a subscriber, please consider subscribing to my channel, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.